their meeting rooms, and some of our position groups have the ability to do that. Others do not as well. So that was tough, and it wasn't always our opponent. I mean, we missed games as a result of our own doing. So it wasn't just everybody else. But trying to keep the focus of the kids was the hardest part. Listen, football practice is not fun. Let's just call it what it is. Playing football is fun. The game is fun. It's fun to watch and all that. But football practice is not a lot of fun. Hey, let's you and I just go out in the yard and knock each other down for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And you do that for 6 weeks without at least getting the opportunity to play. It's tough to keep your focus. And that was the hardest part. This year, the biggest difference is the vaccine, right? We've got the vaccine, and a lot of our kids have been vaccinated. Hopefully that will prevent a lot of the contact tracing issues that we would have had last year. So we're incredibly optimistic about where things are right now.
UAB Athletic Director Mark Ingram joins us here on Kurre and Klapow on the KCAST radio app. And, of course, you can hear this interview again later on tonight from 6 until 8. They're kicking off against Jacksonville State around 6 o'clock, 6:15 kickoff time tomorrow night for the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery. And, by the way, congratulations. I don't know how you pulled it off, but that's the ESPN game of the day, period, man. The world is going to be watching tomorrow night. How important is that to your institution and to UAB athletics as a whole?
Yeah, being able to get that kind of exposure is immeasurable, right? I mean, you're in the media, you understand that. Yeah, if you want to watch a football game tomorrow night, a college game, there's only one, whether you're in California, New York, or Florida, and that'll be the UAB Blazers. And we were looking at it, trying to put the schedule together a couple of years ago. We had everything. You do football scheduling years and years in advance. We've got games scheduled all the way out to 20. I don't think we've got anything in 2030, 2029. And we had one game left, which is this first game, and we were hopeful that we could play it at Protective. But the problem is, when you're 2.5 years out, I met with the contractors about it, and they just can't predict the weather. They can't predict, what if there's a steel shortage or something? They can't predict that. And so just in our conversation with them, we decided that the safest course of action would be to try to do something like this. So we reached out to a guy named Johnny Williams down at the Crampton Bowl, who I've known for a long, long time. He's the former athletic director at Troy, and he's just a great guy. And he had been trying to get us to come down there and play since we started back, playing again in 17. And I told him what the situation was, and he helped get Jacksonville State interested, and fortunately they were still available. And the interesting thing on this, Tony, is that by Jacksonville State being the home team, they're an FCS program. They're permitted to play Wednesday night. We are not, and it's just because it's this first week. So we're not allowed to play until Thursday night. But because they're the home team, and our stadium isn't ready, we were able to get a waiver from the NCAA to play one day early, and that allowed us to by being on Wednesday, by playing Wednesday, then ESPN had the inventory and said we'd love to broadcast the game. It was a lot of moving parts, but it all came together, and I couldn't be more excited for our team and for people to be able to see our team play.
So the NCAA has a heart. I love that. That's great. They do, and they're coming around. It seems like as they get pushed a little bit more, they're coming around. Mark Ingram, the athletic director for the UAB Blazers, getting ready to take on Jacksonville State tomorrow night from the Crampton Bowl. I can't wait to go down there and see the game with my boy, and, of course, it'll be all over ESPN. I got a million questions for you this morning. And I was mentioning this before because I know Coach Clark, and I love having him on as well. We talk a lot of X's and O's, but I can ask you about all these other peripheral things that are going on because I don't think people realize just how difficult it is to be an athletic director for an up-and-comer like UAB, and you're certainly pointing in the right direction, but just an amazing amount of stuff that's going on. How are the rest of athletics going at UAB, and certainly through the protocols, because I know football is a cash cow for you. It's one of the most important athletic things along with the basketball program, but how's it going with the rest of your athletic department?
Through the pandemic this past year, we had the most successful athletic season in school history. It was just interesting to have done it in that year. I mean, let's see, our women's tennis team won more matches than they have since 2003. Our women's volleyball team made our conference tournament for the first time in 8 years. Our beach volleyball team cracked into the top 25 for the first time in school history. Our men's golf team played in the NCAA championship final tournament, and at one point during the year was ranked number 5 in the country. Our men's basketball team finished third, and that's under Coach Andy Kennedy's first season. Our softball team played in our conference tournament championship game. We didn't win it, but we were in the game. So we had a lot of really good things happen last year that we're proud of. And of course, our football team won the conference championship for the second time in 3 years. And our team GPA, if you look at the entire athletic department, which is 400 athletes, their combined GPA was a 3.23, and then we won what's called the SAC Cup, SAAC, Student Athlete Advisory Committee is what that stands for, and Conference USA awards one school this trophy that is for community service, and we had never won it until 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we won it for the first time in school history, and then we won it again last year. So we are back-to-back champions there, and that's a real testament to our student athletes and their commitment to our community.
Congratulations to you. I'm going to let my partner ask a question. Then I have about 12 or 13 more questions to go. You better jump in around right now, brother. Go.
So Mark, one of the things that Tony was talking about this is, you're talking about the COVID protocol, and you talked about, sort of the focus on football because of the size, because it's the season. How much do you, and I said this to you earlier on, you've become like a public health professional, whether you wanted to or not. How much are you floating sort of from team to team, kind of trying to keep an eye on protocols across your teams? Because again, I understand the football, but when collectively you've got a lot of other student athletes, or are you spread out? Is it you and your staff? How are you doing that?
Well, it's much different this year than last. A year ago, we were all, when somebody said, hey, look, we're all going to start going back to work, but you have to wear a mask and you have to do this. At that time, we were like, well, where would you get such a thing? Where would I get a mask? now we all have a dozen of them, laying around in our car and on our desk, and, in our office, around your house.
Do you smell yours first? Do you smell it before you put it on?
Yeah, I got to get a clean one. I've got a kind of a routine that I've got going. But, that's one major difference. I mean, it sounds silly, but it really, a year ago, it was like, what counts as a mask? And I trust our coaches. Our coaches have heard it ad nauseum, what the protocols are. I'm not walking around trying to be a mask police. I got enough work to do, and I got to trust my coaches to do the right thing. And when I go to their practices, what I observe is that they are. Nobody's perfect. Is there going to be a student who at some point is not wearing a mask when they should be? Yeah, but so are you and me. So sometimes you walk into a building, you forget, oh gosh, I got to put that thing on. Nobody's trying to disobey. You just occasionally need to be reminded, but it's really not a big deal. And again, with the vaccine and the number of our student athletes that have been vaccinated, we're in a good spot.
All right, Mark Ingram, the athletic director for the UAB Blazers, joins us. They're kicking off the season against Jacksonville State tomorrow night for the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, and of course you can watch that game on ESPN. It's the only game in town. All right, so I got some big things I want to get into with you, and again, we speak every couple of weeks. We normally don't talk before we come on the air, and I know that you trust me in the questions I throw at you, so I'm just going to throw some stuff at you. Yeah, because
that was a lot of qualification. Get ready, Mark.
No, I mean, because we're always talking about the Power Five and the Group of Five. We act like they're separate, but they're really not, because you're playing football with these people, and there's three big things. You got playoff expansion, you got the alliance now between the three Power Five conferences, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12. I don't know what the Big 12 is planning on doing. It looks like they have to expand. And then, of course, you got Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC, and then you got the NIL. So I don't even know where to start. But as an athletic director for a Group of Five school, when you hear some of these, I mean, the tectonic plates of college football are just, I mean, this is like an endless aftershock. Normally, it would take years and years and years for us to decide we want to change the playoff systems or to allow an NIL thing. And I understand that it's been building up to that, but all these things are happening at one time. As an athletic director for one of those Group of 5 schools, is that something where you're like, hey, listen, I'm just controlling what I can control here from UAB? Are you proactive on those things as perhaps conferences need to expand? Everyone keeps talking about Houston and Central Florida and Cincinnati. Why not UAB? I'm getting a lot of questions with UAB want to be involved in a Big 12 kind of thing. It's not a pipe dream anymore. What's your thoughts on that? And how does your head swirl around all these big major changes in college football?
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. Let's start with the conference expansion. It appears as though the Big 12 is on the clock just based on reading some comments. Kirby Hocutt, who's the athletic director at Texas Tech, he was quoted this week talking about a committee that he's on, an expansion committee with the Big 12. So that tells you that sounds like they're most likely going to expand. How many will they expand to? They were 10, now they're 8. They could go right back to 10, or they could go to 12 or 14 or 16. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. When you look at what are the things that make somebody attractive to your conference, it's not one thing. It's, are you academically similar or at least academically attractive? I remember a lot of presidents, the presidents of the conference ultimately, in the Big 12's case, the expansion committee would make a recommendation to all the presidents who ultimately make the decision on whether or not you're going to be added in or not. So academic strength is important, whether people want to believe that or not. It is a factor. Your budget is a major factor in it. How different is your budget than the rest of us? So we're going to invite you in, and I don't know what Oklahoma State's budget is, but I'm guessing it's north of $100 million. It's probably like $150 million. Our budget is about $32 million. So, if you're Oklahoma State and you're looking at bringing somebody in, you want somebody whose budget is at least in the ballpark, or who you think that by adding them in, that their budget will not be very far off. Because you can invite anybody in to finish last. That's not what you're looking for. You invite somebody in who can really come in and compete to win and challenge everybody else and make the conference better. Right? You can bring anybody in to be dead last. That's not what you're looking for. Your media market is important. How many season tickets do you sell? What does your fan base look like? These are all important things. What has been your facilities commitment? Are you showing that you intend to be competitive? Not every team is going to win the championship every year, but at least by having, really good facilities, when you combine that with a good coach, you can have success. And you might have a down year. You might hire a coach who has all the pedigree and things, and it sometimes just doesn't work out. But if you as a university have invested, that's what they're looking for. So the decision by Texas and Oklahoma will affect everybody in some way. It's either going to, the Big 12 is going to take somebody, so that means that wherever those schools come from, that conference is going to be affected, and even if you don't get selected to go to a new conference yourself, it's going to impact you because it impacts the conference that you're in.
Yeah, well, let me just interrupt real quick, because to me right now, UAB is the good-looking girl on the block. You've got, I don't know what your budget is. I mean, you said roughly $30-40 million, and obviously your budget can be whatever you want it to be. You may fall short of that, but you guys got everything that a major conference would want. You got the market size. You've got a brand new stadium that's opening up in a few weeks. You've got a winning football program. You got a winning football coach. You've just went through the accolades of your entire athletic department and how well you're succeeding. I mean, I ask you to point out, if the Big 12 came and tried to poach you, would you entertain that? Is this something that you would look at? And certainly, for people that think that Bill Clark doesn't want to stay in a Conference USA conference or a smaller conference for forever and ever and ever, that would be another reason why you would entertain that thing. I know that's a huge question. Maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but that's certainly something you listen to, correct?
Yeah, if anybody called you, you have to, take a moment and evaluate, is that a good decision for your university? It's the university decision. Our university is who's aligned with the conference. We would stop and evaluate, say, okay, we've had this overture. Let's discuss whether or not this would make sense for us. Is this wise for our university? Is it good? Remember, all of us exist to promote the university.
Yep.
Every athletic department in the country. I realized that when Harvard and Yale got together in the 1800s to play basketball, it wasn't to see who could better execute the pick and roll. It was to see, they recognized that it got their alumni together and allowed them to promote the great things that were happening at their universities and talk about research and so forth. That's still true today. Even though the enterprise has grown and is much bigger and looks more like a business than it used to, it's still for the same purpose. So we would have that conversation. Is this opportunity good for the university or not? And we would go from there. But I don't see that happening, though. That certainly, I guess anything is possible. But again, our budgetary difference would be significant with the Big 12, but not the one thing that none of us know, Tony, is when we sit here and talk about all the great things that we have going. We've got this beautiful new stadium. We're building a basketball practice facility. We've got the number 40 media market in the country. We have a rabid fan base that the city of Birmingham loves college football. It's ranked the number one city for college football in the country. We do have a lot of great. We have a terrific airport. So it's easy to get in and out of here. That's important to teams. We have a lot of great hotels, so plenty of places to stay. You don't have to, you don't have to play UAB, but you got to stay in Nashville. It's nothing like that. You can get here easily. There's a lot of great things that we have, and of course we have a phenomenal university that has been growing leaps and bounds over the last 6 or 8 years. So we have a lot of great qualities. What we don't know, Tony, is for that committee, let's say for the Big 12 in this case, we have no idea what they think is right for them. So we might say, well, here's all the great things that we have, but they might say, yeah, but you're not on the West Coast, and we've decided we want West Coast schools. And whether they're right or they're wrong, it's their decision.
Yeah.
We have no idea what they think is good.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right? So, or do they want to try to stay, predominantly in the Midwest? Or do they think expanding east or just grabbing major media markets, what is the best thing for them? Only they know. And they may not be right in that decision.
Yeah.
But it's their decision. So
Yeah.
It's no different than it's 4th and goal on the 1-yard line. Do you kick a field goal or do you try to punch it in? Well, the answer is correct if it works. And as long as you win the game and it works. But, the coach, evaluates with everything they've got, and they make the decision at the time that they think is the best decision in the moment. So we'll see how it plays out. I would think that the Big 12 would try to react soon enough to replace, Texas and Oklahoma when Texas and Oklahoma leave. And look, you're talking about two of the biggest brands in the game, so you can't replace them in a traditional sense. It's about trying to find the sort of the next best fit for their league, whatever they think that is.
What did you make of the alliance? There wasn't a whole lot said between the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12. It just basically said, leave us alone. We're not allowing any of our teams to leave to go anywhere else. And obviously 16 seems to be that magic number, and the SEC is going to be there next year. But what did you make of that alliance? What do you think that means? Does that mean we're going to be going to 4 conferences or 4 super conferences with 16 teams? And again, I would think, again, I'm not an athletic director. You're much closer to it than I am. But if you're going to expand, you might as well try to double up and go 16. It seems like the number, right?
Well, I don't know, Tony. I mean, I think the alliance, you saw the Big 12, the Pac-12 announced this week that they're not going to grow. They decided to not expand. So they are 12 and they're staying at 12. I think the alliance was more about scheduling and finding a way to sort of band together to create, compelling matchups coast to coast for the sake of, promoting their individual conference brands. And there's no contract there. I think they just decided, hey, how about the three of us get together and talk about some sort of scheduling matchup. And this happens a lot in basketball, where you can think of a week, call it the first week of December, where, maybe the ACC and the Big Ten, all their teams play one another. The ACC Big Ten Challenge kind of thing. This happens. It's hard to put it together, though, because, again, as I said, like, we've got games scheduled out through 29. So if the ACC called and said, hey, we want to do this alliance and we're going to have this scheduling plan where we're going to play each other, well, I'm not available until 2030. Call me and let me know.
Yeah.
So it's tougher than it sounds, but best I know, that was what the purpose was.
Just a couple more questions, and I'll let you go. And I really appreciate your time. I know we're going long, but and we'll certainly get into the Protective Stadium and what you're doing in October, because it's just an amazing thing, and I think it's a dream come true for so many UAB fans. The NIL situation, the likeness, the use of players. Have you seen that affect any of your players? We've certainly seen some big-time players, including the quarterback Bryce Young at Alabama signing a 7-figure deal, or at least this is what Nick Saban's saying. But has that affected your football team at any point, and how has it affected some of the smaller teams?
Well, it hasn't affected us yet, but it is doing exactly what those of us that work in college athletics told some of our good folks on Capitol Hill who don't understand college sports, but they stuck their nose in it. It's doing exactly what we said, which is become a recruiting tool immediately. They played Pollyanna and tried to act like, oh, no, this is just for that, for that young man or young woman who has a YouTube channel that if they could get a sponsor, then their mom wouldn't have to work a third job, and this is a way for them to make extra money. That was such it was just absurd listening to them talk about it, and I had conversations with a few of them that kind of tried to scold me and tell me that I didn't understand. When I said, look, you're going to have coaches lining up deals for players so they can recruit, and they would stop me. Let me just tell you, that's not what this is, and you don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, it took all about 15 seconds once it went live for that to happen, and we all knew it would happen. So what it's going to do is it is still for an incredibly small. Those big dollars are there for an incredibly small number of people. You have to wonder how long overzealous fans are willing to overpay for somebody's use of their name, image, and likeness. So, not to name any one player, but just, how long do you spend $100,000 or $1 million of your dollars on a player that's never played before that may show up and turn their ankle and never get on the field or the court? I mean, is that really where you want to spend your money? I mean, look, grown-ups can do what grown-ups want to do. It's their money, but my hope is that it settles back in. We've had some student athletes inquire about it. We have all the resources in place to help them with that. We've had seminars with them about how to do it properly.
That's good.
And we have a way through our compliance office that will track it so we can make sure that it's all done on the up and up. But it's like, if a year ago giving a bag of cash away was illegal, today it's not.
Yeah.
You can just say, oh, I'm going to sponsor that student athlete. Okay. So, if you were a shoe company and you're in the middle of some major infractions case over sending players to a particular school, well, today you could do that and categorize it as a name, image, and likeness deal. So it's rocked the foundation of the NCAA, because the things that we guarded against most for 100 years was we can't pay players. What we do is we offer them scholarships to promote academics and them getting a college degree. That's let them use their sport as a mechanism to get a college degree. And so we guarded against paying players forever. Now guess what we're doing? We're paying player, and there's no secret to it. I mean, there's players coming out and saying, I'm going to decommit from my university. I've been committed to go play basketball at school A, and now I'm going to decommit to see if there's bigger name, image, and likeness deals for me somewhere else in the country. That's them shopping themselves around, saying to coaches and other schools, if you can bring me more money, if you can find a deal for me, I'll consider playing for you.
Yeah. It's crazy what we're seeing in college football and college sports, period. All right, final question. Let's talk about the new stadium opening up. Of course, I'm kind of glad that we're waiting till October because I want to make sure it's right, and I think that's going to add a little bit more fever. The fact that UAB is already playing and getting the season started. There'll be the Crampton Bowl tomorrow night against Jacksonville State, right around 6:30 kickoff time, and it's going to be on ESPN. I can't wait to go down there and see you guys play on your first game tomorrow night. But is it true that when you started building that stadium, you said, first, we're going to build my suite. We want to make sure my suite's perfect first, and then we'll start adding everything else to protective. Yeah. I'm sure I was part of your plans. I was in the blueprints, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was the first thing. We built a practice facility for our players that we opened in 2017, and I was adamant that we had to build that first because that's where the players practice every day. That's really what you recruit to. That's where they live. That's the facility that when you're recruiting a young man, that you can say, look, you can get to the next level from here. These are all the tools you need to get yourself to the next level. And it's proven to be true. We've won 3 straight division titles and 2 championships over the last 3 years, and we've had bowl invitations all 4 years as well. The Protective Stadium, Tony, is for our fans. And our fans who've been with us through thick and thin deserve it. I'm thrilled for them. I'm excited for them. It's the nicest college football stadium in America. It's really that good. And I'd be happy to argue that and debate that with anybody that wants to do it. It's incredible. 34 suites, 1,700 club seats. You can walk all the way around the stadium on the concourse level and see the field from all points. You can be in line for a hot dog and turn around and watch the game. The concourses are extra wide so that you don't feel like you're shoulder to shoulder with people in a crowd that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, frankly. There's a drink rail at the top of every lower level section, which is okay. So you got your hot dog and your soda, and all you need is a third hand to put mustard on that dog. Well, you can set it down on this drink rail, and enjoy your hot dog and watch the game. And instead of doing the balancing act on your knees down at your seat, which is also uncomfortable, So it's just a great place. There's 800 toilet fixtures just for our ladies. So you're welcome, ladies.
Less lines.
Well, there you go.
Restrooms and same for the men, but it's over the top nice. It's the 5th largest video board in the country. We have our own locker room facility that is fantastic. It's a large open area. We have a banquet room in there built in, designed for recruiting, so that when we host recruits on game day, we have a climate-controlled space that was built into the stadium. And there's a lot of programs, Group of 5, Power 5, you name it, that do not have that. So, it's not just, good for UAB. No, it's incredible for anybody that would walk into that stadium.
I got a text here a few seconds ago asking the question, is this stadium owned by the city? Is it owned by the state? Is it owned by UAB? Is it a collaboration? And if, in fact, that is, any chance we could get some concerts in there?
That was my question.
Yeah, so it is owned by the BJCC, the Birmingham Jefferson Convention Center. They're an authority, like an airport authority. It was their land. They own it. But it was a collaborative effort in terms of funding the project. And they invested the most, the BJCC did.
Yeah.
The city, the county, our private, we helped raise $40 billion from the private sector as part of the project. And as you know, the BJCC is renovating Legacy Arena.
It looks amazing.
As well. So
yeah.
it's it's going to be stunning. And yes, the answer is yes on concerts. The plan is to have a number of events in the stadium all year round, and that does include outdoor concerts. So I would anticipate somewhere, starting next spring, seeing a concert series that's down there at Protective Stadium.
The Rolling Stones.
Yeah, why not? And, God bless
Charlie Watts, yeah.
who passed away, Charlie Watts, who died this week.
I mean, we had it down at Legion Field with U2 and Pink Floyd,
Yeah.
the Rolling Stones, and I mean, you've got yourself a brand new stadium, and it's shiny and new, and it's the finest stadium in the land. Why not try to open it up to some concerts? Hey, Mark, thank you so much for the time. 15 minutes turns into 35 in a heartbeat with you, and I love speaking with you. I hope to put my hand inside yours tomorrow down at the game, and really appreciate your time, and best of luck to you, and go Blazers.
I appreciate it, Tony. Thanks a lot. We're looking forward to a great season, and looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Hey, how about we close this thing out with AC/DC Thunderstruck?
There you go. I'll get it on for you. You got it, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it. There is Mark Ingram, right there with the UAB Blazers. I'm super stoked. I'm ready to go.
He is so steadfast.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just rattling off all the accolades for all of his teams, in addition to all the protocols, all the guy. It's absolutely incredible the amount of work that ADs do. I think we don't hear it, right? Because it's always about the big sport, et cetera. I mean, he's got the entire thing under control, and he understands the politics. He's such an impressive guy.
No, and I love getting him on because he does tell you a lot of things that I think as a fan. I mean, I love to hear about the X's and O's and how's the football team going to perform and
Right.
blah 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 blah.
But he's telling you about all the NIL issues. He's telling you about the way the stadium was built.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's one of the things, again, football is top here, but we do have, I told you when I was down at the beach volleyball championships, UAB was the host team.
Yeah.
And there they were, top 25, the golf team. I think it's a great opportunity. And I think he's not only a great operator, but he's a great ambassador, because he really is able to. I mean, in our conversation, he's able to pivot and talk about any of his teams at any moment. And to me, that's a great thing.
And what I love about him too is he knows me. He knows my heart. He knows I'm never going to throw him under the bus, but I will ask questions.
Yeah.
And he answers them. And
Yes.
it hit me this morning. Because I got a friend of mine that went to the University of Cincinnati, is like, looks like we're heading to the Big 12. And I said, well, they were the ones that proposed to the Big 12 a couple of years ago, and they were right on the cusp of being chosen, and for whatever reason they didn't. Central Florida, who I think has done a propaganda fantastic job at saying they won a national title, and we kind of scoffed at that. Those are things that you think about, and again, you don't have any more 0-11 teams down there anymore. They've invested the money into their program. You talk about the Houstons of the world that come from a major market, a top 5 market that would be a get for anybody. And then you got this little old UAB, which ain't little old UAB anymore, from the 4th biggest television market in the country. And I'm thinking to myself, why not? I mean, think about this 6-7 years ago, and let's just forget that UAB hung up the cleats.
Oh yeah,
UAB in a major college football conference was so far gone. It was like it'll never. It's a commuter school. They don't care about their football program. Look at their fans. Now all of a sudden you've got everything. I mean, I'm sitting down in front of the commissioner of the Big 12, and I don't know. Again, I didn't go as far as to say, is this something you're being proactive on? Because the Big 12 is going. They have to expand. They have to.
Right.
If they're going to want to compete, because they're just going to be poached again and again and again. And the Texas Oklahoma to SEC thing came out of nowhere.
That's right.
Their 2 biggest schools. I mean, they took their 2 biggest honeys and just robbed them. And I'm thinking to myself, why not? It fits everything, because the biggest question as a UAB fan is Bill Clark's not going to stay here forever. Right. Well, I'd like to think he is. Well, he's an Alabama guy. He loves it here. His name came up for the Auburn job before Brian Harsin took. Right. And you're thinking to yourself, it's about money. If he's making $1.5 million, $2 million, and someone says, I'll give you $7 million to come coach here, he's got to think about that. And he's a young guy, and I'm certainly not putting any words in his mouth.
No.
But by him going into another major conference, The money's going to be there to be able to pay. It just makes sense in so many different ways. Again, though, they may only be looking at West Coast schools. Maybe but it's a Midwestern type of conference. I may be totally crazy.
The only thing he said to me, the only thing I heard in that list, besides where they may be looking just regionally, was the budget. That was the only thing. If you
was the only thing.
Yeah, that was literally that was. I mean, he was going. The and the other thing that I thought about, but I hadn't thought about, which is true. The airport. You think about you think about some of the other schools here.
Yeah.
And you're not flying in. You're not flying in, and you're there.
No.
And we
the Concorde landed here. We have long runways, right?
Right.
I mean,
no, it's true. I mean, it's absolutely true. But it is interesting. It is to me the whole financial budget part is absolutely fascinating because of the number that he used relative to some of these other numbers.
Yeah.
The 32 or whatever it was. And I think, like you said, the Central Florida, the promotion of it, and it's relevant. It's relevant to the university. I mean, on the academic side, there has been a push for 20 plus years to keep moving up in research dollars, to keep being the preeminent school. And, we went from cracking the top 50 to cracking the top 25 to now being wanting to be the top five funded schools in research dollars. And it has those parallels. I gotta ask the question. You're the sports guy, and I've been dancing around this. I didn't ask him. I know it's taboo, and but I'm going to say it. How does this all play with Alabama and Auburn? And I don't mean SEC, but it is the state. Obviously, I'm not going to ask him. That's not the right question. But how does it play? What impact does it have?
Well,
or how is it impacted? Maybe.
And let's remember there was conspiracies that Alabama, because UAB is under the Alabama umbrella, Alabama didn't want UAB to do well, and they would never play them in football because they didn't want to. And so I think that is, and the Watts was brought in by the University of Alabama to ensure that UAB would just go away, kick the redhead stepchild. Well, that's all out the door now. And while UAB has become its own self and has found itself in a lot of different ways. Again, you're talking about billions and billions and billions of research dollars and everything that UAB is from a medical situation. It would only make sense to me that if Alabama is a good business and a good business model, this would be a great move to have them under our umbrella, to see little Joey all of a sudden get a scholarship and start playing for a D1 school. And hey, all of a sudden, who are you again? He's going to play in Minnesota. I would think that would be a good thing. Listen,
you've been in sports a long time.
Alabama fans. Nick Saban's won 6 championships, 7 overall.
I'm not talking about from a competition.
No, it's always going to be competition.
Well, yeah.
But this is also a way, and I'll say this is also a way for Alabama to now have another D1 Power 5 school under its umbrella to kick dirt in that little school down there near Opelika.
Yes. Have you seen the new dorms?
Yeah. How good would it be to see UAB beat Auburn for the University of Alabama? Little brother just kicked the dirt out of the. And again, I think UAB is its own identity now. They can do their own thing. I would believe, and it would certainly be noteworthy to mention that under the trustees and everyone else that makes the decisions in Tuscaloosa, that it would be a very smart thing for you. If in fact, but it sounded like to me, if I was the Big 12 commissioner, it sounded like he was making an argument. He was mentioning all the wonderful things about UAB without saying that we would love an invite. And that's why I asked the question, would you listen? He said, yeah, absolutely. We have to listen to his overtures.
I know we're going long, but this is our show. What does budget, obviously more budget is better. I get that.
Yeah.
But what does budget limit you on to be in the Big 12? They got enough money to fly. They got enough money. What is it that $32 million I'm making between $100 million and $32 million? Obviously, it's a huge amount. Yeah. But logistically, what does it not?
Well, your budget would automatically go up just from the TV revenue that each school gets. Yep. You're now cutting that up in 8 ways instead of 10.
Okay.
A lot of money that Texas had with their own network and their own program in Oklahoma as well will be gone, so that could be shared. I would think your budget would go up exponentially just because you're joining that bigger conference. And I guess they just want to know that you can compete. I thought it made a really good point.
Yeah, anyone can be last.
You can always find a last place team. It's super easy to go cherry pick someone and say, okay, you're finishing last every year. But that's not what UAB is all about. But I mean, they do have. I think the stadium plays a huge,
that's what I was
huge
thinking.
part of it, because, like he said, you want to know you've got a player, you got a team that's going to be invested in everything that this athletic platform has to give. And again, UAB's got it all. They've brought back every sport they've got. They're doing well in every sport they've got, and really they're doing it. You can sit there with their hand-tied or handicapped just from the standpoint that they're known as a commuter college. Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. Absolutely not anymore. And
They're
recruiting like crazy across the United States. and this is where the athletics and the university life really plays in. I mean, not only were they considered a commuter college, and not only were they considered sort of, not other, it was always other than basketball. Facilities for undergraduates. Mm-hmm. And so now, and quality of undergraduates, not just athletes. And so now when they're recruiting their athletes, just like he said, you come to UAB now. I'm biased. I was there for 20 years. But when you come to UAB, it's not just, well, it's kind of okay. There's the medical school, they're top whatever, and here's our practice facilities, or here's our undergrad. There's beautiful dorms. There's beautiful athletic facilities. It looks like, I shouldn't say looks, it is its own campus.
Yep.
It's an urban campus, but it's sure as heck not a commuter school.